G'day Earthlings, Dr. Rank here, and welcome to Gaming Legends, the show that's finally playing something my grandparents have played. Monopoly is a capitalistic board game in which 2 to 6 players compete for the most lucrative real estate investments. But, as we all know, the best way to maximize your profits is to minimize your costs. Can you win Monopoly without buying any properties? I'll be doing this challenge in the video game Monopoly for Nintendo Switch against 5 AI opponents on very easy difficulty. We'll be playing with the classic Monopoly rules with one self-imposed exception. Spending money on the acquisition of a property is banned. I must decline the purchase of all properties I land on, abstain from bidding on them in auctions, and I cannot engage in any trades that result in me losing money and gaining a property. Note that these rules only apply to me. The AI players can do whatever the heck they want. If I can bankrupt all my opponents and be the last man standing under those restrictions, then we can declare the challenge a success. Without further ado, let's get this run started. Now obviously we're not gonna win with literally 0 properties. Without them, our only sources of income are the salary for passing go and the random Chancer community chest events, which our opponents are also getting at a similar rate. And before you ask, no, there's no money on free parking. There are only 2 ways to acquire properties without paying for them. If an opponent owes you money and is unable to pay off their debt, they declare bankruptcy and surrender all their assets to you. But the only debts that can occur between players are rent from landing on opponents' properties, or the community chest It's Your Birthday card, which gives you $10 from each player. There is also the Chance Chairman of the Board card, which can siphon up to $250 from its recipient, but that money is split between multiple creditors at once, which the game is not prepared to handle bankruptcy for. The only other option is to trade properties between players, which can be done without any cash involvement. But if we're gonna do that, we need something to offer. That's where our secret weapon comes in, the Get Out of Jail Free card. There's one of these in each card deck, and you get to keep them as a consumable item. Their main use is to escape from jail without having to roll a double, but they also make perfectly good bargaining chips. Unfortunately, the first jail card of the game was picked up by Nico, and he's not handing it over without a fight. It took some haggling, but I was eventually able to buy it off him for $56. Hang on a minute, I thought you weren't allowed to buy properties. Why are you buying jail cards? Oh, don't worry, the jail card is legally not a property. To prove it, we need to stop playing Monopoly for Nintendo Switch and start playing the vastly superior Monopoly Party for the PlayStation 2. Monopoly Party includes several custom rule settings the Switch version doesn't have, including the ability to distribute random properties at the start of the game. If you set this rule to all properties dealt, the game will give out every single property on the board, but leave both jail cards in their respective decks. So we're free to spend as much money on jail cards as the AI will accept. Unfortunately, Monopoly Party is not a viable version for the challenge itself. Even on easy mode, the AI is just too stubborn. They won't even give me Old Kent Road for 2 jail cards. But the AI in Monopoly for Nintendo Switch is much dumber. They focus purely on the face value of the properties being traded, while ignoring intangible factors like whether it creates or breaks up a full set. Each jail card is worth $50, so the fairest trade would be 1 card for one of the brown properties. Unfortunately, Nico had already put houses on both browns by this point, rendering them untradeable. Luckily, Michelle was willing to let go of Euston Road for 1 jail card, finally giving us a source of rental income. But why settle for a dinky little light blue property? I traded Euston Road to Nico for Northumberland Avenue, which I then swapped with Mike for Marlborough Street, which I then swapped back for Piccadilly, which I then gave to David for Bond Street, which I finally used to get Mayfair from Leo. Now obviously Mayfair is the best property on the board, but it's not going to win the game on its own. Rather than waiting for the second jail card to surface, we can immediately trade with Michelle, offering Mayfair in exchange for both Fenchurch Street and Liverpool Street stations. And would you look at that, now we have 2 properties to trade with. One we swap for Bow Street from Nico, while the other goes to Michelle for Coventry Street, then Bond Street and Mayfair again. That last one does give Michelle a full set of greens, but he doesn't have the cash to put houses on them yet. We once again trade Mayfair for 2 properties, this time Northumberland and Marlborough from Mike. All we have to do now is give Northumberland back to Nico for Vine Street, and we now have the full orange set. While the oranges don't have the pure menace that Mayfair and Park Lane do, they're still the best possible colour set to invest in. Since you can get sent to jail from anywhere, and you use 2 D6s to move, the orange's location, 6 to 9 spaces after jail, makes them the most frequently visited properties on the board. They're also fairly cheap to improve at $100 per house, and since we haven't been wasting money on the real estate market, we have more than enough cash to build those houses. The more houses we put on a property, the more rent we get from it. However, I recommend not putting hotels on any of them just yet, instead stopping at 3 or 4 houses each. That way, there's less houses to go around for your opponents to build. Shortly after using the community chest jail card to get the orange set, I managed to snag the chance jail card for myself. This let me set up a trade chain that included Euston Road, Northumberland Avenue, Strand, and Regent Street. Both blues had houses, so I instead traded Regent for both of David's pinks. I then individually swapped those for Leo's Fleet Street and Trafalgar Square, giving the former to Michelle for Pentonville Road and the Angel Islington. Those 2 I then used to get back Whitehall and Northumberland, which were then exchanged for the last 2 reds. The reds are the second best colour to own, being 2 rolls away from jail on average, and having a chance card that directs players straight to Trafalgar Square. Their houses are a bit dearer at $150, but also more lucrative. With the entire northwest corner of the board under our control, we should easily be able to drain our opponents' wallets. David was the first to go, bankrupted by Trafalgar Square with 4 houses. Michelle then immediately met the same fate at Fleet Street, giving us 2 pinks, Piccadilly, Fenchurch Street Station, all 3 greens, and a jail card. Nico was then $6 short for the super tax and chose to lose the game rather than pay it. Since his debt was to the bank, all his properties got auctioned off and his jail card went back to the deck. Since I had some extra properties to spare, I offered Leo Piccadilly in exchange for Pall Mall and Old Kent Road, then gave Mike my last jail card for Whitechapel Road. With that, I now have 5 full sets. Unfortunately, there aren't enough houses to fully upgrade all of them, and the greens aren't even worth it. So I put hotels on the oranges while putting 3 houses on each pink and brown. I didn't have enough money to put a 4th house on the pinks right away, but 1 hotel stay from Mike fixed that real good. Immediately after putting a hotel on Trafalgar Square, Leo went bankrupt from it, leaving me with the light blues, yellows, utilities, and Liverpool Street Station. All that was left was Mike, and while he did have both blues and 2 railways, I had literally everything else. At the 1 hour and 53 minute mark, Mike finally visited the Vine Street Hotel, which left him bankrupt. The Monopoly No Money Down run is officially conquered. If you want to watch the run, you can check out the uncommentated footage on my archive channel. Also, let me know if you want to see more board game content from me. If so, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. That's all for now, and I will see you down under.